Well, hello again. And yes, I thought I'd have another look at Miles Johnston's channel. He's got a guy on here talking about Black Goo, you know, the sentient Black Goo, which of course is completely preposterous. A couple of other people have spoken about it. I think one of them is David Griffin, who's gained all his knowledge about Black Goo from Nexus magazine. So you can take that to the bank. And there's one or two others. There's another guy as well, Valor or something, that talks about it. And again, he's got a jar of sentient Black Goo, and he stands on the stage and he said if he had two of these, they'd be fighting to get at each other. And of course, he only ever shows one. Wonder why that might be. Okay, well, this guy is apparently, if you look at this bottom banner here, it says Falklands War Veteran, Black Goo, Sentient Fluid Direct Experiencer. Now that is not true, because further on in this presentation he tells us that he never personally saw the Black Goo. It was a colleague of his that saw the Black Goo. So he is not a direct experiencer. Black Goo, Sentient Fluid Direct Experiencer at all. His colleague might be. Alright, so we're off to a bad start. What else have we got here? Okay, let's move on to 1102, where he talks about the size of the cave. This is on Thule Island, around the time of the Falkland War. So let's go to 1102 and see what he's got to say about the size of the cave he found. I've heard people say there's been 400 crates of this sentient Black Goo. I think this guy said there was 40, but listen to him describe the size of the room. Where are we? 11 something or another, was it? 11, let's try there. Oops, 1102. And start.
This was before the main landings of the task force, and
it's not 11, is it? Come.
Much there, but then we noticed what we thought was a very large cave.
Okay, this will do.
And the cave, the entrance to it, if you imagine the side of this room as like an alcove, a sloped roof or entrance, that's how big it was. You could get probably 3 or 4 cars inside it. So we went inside to have a look.
Okay, so you can get 3 or 4 cars inside it. Remember that. And
what we saw when we got in there was quite amazing, because it was quite beautiful. When we got in there, it was quite beautiful, because it wasn't just ice, it was blue ice. It was
fallen straight from a passing aircraft lavatory, no doubt.
The light blue ice. And the floor, the ground, had been deliberately ridged to key it so that if you went in there, you didn't fall over straight away and break your neck. There was, always remember this is an odd thing to remember, but there was a shovel propped up against...
Yeah, okay. I won't worry too much about the shovel. What else we got here? Okay, let's go to 1341, where he starts talking about these containers. Let's go to 1341. There we go, or 1340. There we go. And let's...
And they were about as wide as from the end of that desk.
Now he's describing these peculiar containers, supposedly containing the Black Goo.
So about the beginning of this bench seat here. So they were about that wide and about that high.
Now, he goes on to say, I don't know if it's here or later on in the video, there's about 40 or more of these containers in a volume that he's previously said you could probably fit 3 cars in.
And they were blue. And they were a light blue, almost the same kind of blue that the ice was inside the cave. I don't know if it was an attempt to camouflage them or what, it just seemed very odd. But what was even more odd was the fact that they were not made of metal, they were not made of ice, The only way I can explain what they were made of, they were made of a kind of thick plastic that
Well, they must come from another star system if they're made of plastic, obviously.
I've never seen before and I've not seen since. There was markings on one side.
He doesn't describe the markings. Now, he shows a photo later on of himself and a couple of colleagues standing by the crude oil tanks or the diesel tanks, the ones that were blown up and caused a huge fireball. And he's got a picture of the outside of this scientific base. He's got no pictures of these crates, no pictures of the markings. Now, I think if I had a camera on me and I was snapping my colleagues and I was snapping the installation and I came across something that I thought was really peculiar, I might be inclined to take a few snaps, personally.
One of the long sides of each one, there was a huge amount of them in there.
Huge amount of them in there. Remember, this is a volume you could fit 3 cars in.
In my memory, which is, I mean, this was a long time ago, I remember there was maybe 40
40 or 50 of these. 40 or 50 of these crates is inside a volume you could fit 3 cars in. Yes, okay.
40, maybe more in there. But the thing that stands out is how difficult it was to have a look further back to see how many more there actually were, because they were connected. And they were connected not by pipes or anything like that, but the containers themselves had like a... I meant to draw a picture of this actually. They had like
Now that would have been good actually if he'd have drawn a picture. He goes on to describe them interlocking like a jigsaw puzzle. Makes no sense whatsoever. You know, why would you want to store interlocking crates? Make them very difficult to move, wouldn't it? So, yeah, I don't believe that for a minute. What else have we got? Okay, let's go to 1645. Where this just doesn't make any sense at all either. Let's have a look at this, 1645.
He was higher than me in rank as a captain, if I remember rightly. He said to me, "You can help, but I don't want you interfering with this, as I know you're ex-Royal Engineers. Sorry, I know you're Royal Engineers. And you're supposed to be dealing with the explosives there, back round into the other bay." So I said, "Well, I can't be in 2 places at once. Let me just help with this."
That makes no sense whatsoever. The guy says you're not supposed to be here, you're not supposed to be dealing with this, you're supposed to be dealing with the explosives. And he says, well, I can't be in 2 places at once. Well, the captain's not actually asking him to be in 2 places at once, is he? So, yeah, this is I can't picture this scenario personally.
And me and my squad of men, we helped drag these large containers out of this cavern, this huge cave, and they were put on special pallets. These pallets were moved with small half tracks.
So we're talking about 40 or 50 of these large crates, are we? Hang on, let's just go to that 1645 again. Just what did the captain say to him?
He was higher than me in rank as a captain, if I remember rightly. He said to me, "You can help, but I don't want you interfering with this, as I know you're ex-Royal Engineers."
That makes no sense at all. You can help, but I don't want you interfering with this. Sounds a bit of like a contradiction, doesn't it, really? Oh, maybe that's why he said, "I can't be in 2 places at once. You can help, but I don't want you interfering with this." I mean, if that had been me, I'd have said, "Well, okay, see ya, have fun." Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me anyway. I think this is gibberish.
Sorry, I know you're Royal Engineers. And you're supposed to be dealing with the explosives there, back round into the other bay. So I said, "Well, I can't be in 2 places at once. Let me just help with this." And me and my squad of men.
Yeah, what is this body language thing when someone touches someone their ear? What does that mean? I'll have to look that one up.
We helped drag these large containers out of this cavern, this huge cave.
Oh, so now it's a huge cave. You know, it's not a cave that has the sort of internal volume that would hold 3 cars. Now it's a huge cave.
And they were put on special pallets. These pallets were moved with small
Yeah, I think we get the picture. Dragged across the ice by little half-track vehicles like they do in Antarctica. Where are we now? Okay, let's go to 1923. What did we see at 1923? Oops. 1923. 23.
And we got back there after. But let's get back to this cavern again and what was going on there.
Okay, yeah. So here's the guy. He's got a picture of himself and his colleagues, and there's the big tanks in the background. No sign of any crates. Why aren't there pictures of these unusual crates with the unusual markings? Yeah. Drivel, I think, personally. I think this is absolute rubbish.
We knew that something wasn't right about these containers because of the markings, because of the material that they were made with, and also the way that they were joined together. And
so much so that he resisted the urge to take any photographs of them.
The fact that they'd obviously been stored in even lower temperatures than would seem necessary. There was nothing on the ground. There was no...
Okay. What else have we got here? Okay, so let me go on to 2113. We go on to 2113. What have we got at 2113? 21...
A friend, somebody who I was there with who's now dead, claimed that he managed to look in and see what was inside, and he said it was oil. But he also said the odd thing about it was when he lifted the lid, and I don't know how he managed to lift the lid because I couldn't even see where a lid was. He claimed this is in the pub a few years later when we're talking about it.
This is in the pub a few years later when they're talking about it. This is just, absolute nonsense, isn't it? So they're down there, they found these unusual crates, and remember, it's not him, it's his colleague or his friend that's looked inside the crate and he's seen this really odd material that seemed to move towards him. And he doesn't mention it at the time, he mentions it years later in the pub. This is just absolute rubbish.
The oil seemed attracted by him looking and actually...
Okay, so remember that the banner at the beginning of this video says this guy is a direct Black Goo experiencer. He's not, is he? His friend or his colleague supposedly saw this stuff. At the time, in these unusual crates with the unusual markings, it moved towards him, which is pretty unusual. You think you might mention that a bit later on, over a cup of coffee or something like that. When you finish your shift for the day, you've gone and you're sitting around with the guys, you're having some food, you might have a drink, and he doesn't mention it then. He waits years and years to mention it, and mentions it years later when they're in a pub. Yeah, right.
To change its position within the container and start to move towards him.
I don't think this guy even believes it. He's. I think he's a friend of Miles Johnson. This guy, and Miles has convinced him that he needs to come and give this talk because there's no people directly connected with this Black Goo. It's all a fanciful yarn. The guy that wrote the article for Nexus, that David, whatever his name is, got his information from reading the article in Nexus, and God knows where Valor got his information from. But there is no real evidence for this stuff. And there's certainly no connection between it and Marconi, and they go on to mention that a little bit later on. Remember, the best way to to convince somebody that a steaming pile of garbage is true is to intertwine it with a few facts that can be checked. And the unusual Marconi scientist deaths is true, and they were, you know, bizarre, and they're recorded. You know, that's fact you can check. But there's no connection between those deaths and this supposed black goo. It's nonsense.
I think back about what happened, and also when we returned to ship, we had to be debriefed.
Ah, yeah, well, that's probably really unusual, isn't it? Soldiers returning back to a ship and having to be debriefed. I would think that happens after every bloody mission, doesn't it? Okay, so then what do we have? I'm looking away from the camera here. Just looking at my notes. I've sort of timestamped some of these things. 25-27. What do we have there? So we go to let's go to 25-27 and see what pearls of wisdom we can glean. 25. Oh, you go 25-26. That'll do.
He said to me, "You were involved with South Georgia and the sandwiches. We used to call it sandwiches." I said, "Yes." Why? He said, "Can you remember what happened?" And I can remember sitting down, excuse me, and talking to him about what happened, and him saying to me, "You do realise a lot of people have died because of what you brought back." And I thought, I just don't know what you mean. Brought back, what do you mean? He claimed, excuse me, he claimed that what we brought back was being used by Marconi GEC in China and was being used in an experimental way, and he wouldn't say any more than that.
Yeah, right. I mean, if it was a sentient black goo, presumably be some kind of biological material. It's not going to go to an electronics company. If it went anywhere, it'd go to Port and Down, if it existed at all. That's just rubbish. I'm not going to bother with that. What else have we got? 29-48. What do we have at 29? What do we have at 29-48? 29. Funny position
here. Say about CE5. It was a few months ago. I met Miles.
Here we go. Yeah, this CE5. This is this Stephen Greer. Contacting ET with your consciousness, you know, meditation, reach out with your mind to talk to extraterrestrials, you know. So if you were thinking about, even if you were thinking about giving this guy some credibility, forget it. You know, as soon as you start talking about that sort of absolute rubbish, you can put a line through anything they have to say.
At Knapp Hill in Wiltshire. And at that time I was going and doing sky watches at least once a week because of something that had happened to me on a sky watch. I believe all this is connected. The details are too long and
That's because you need a very good memory to tell these fictional stories and get them right every time, so it's easier just to skip over it and say what he's saying. So yeah, we can forget about that one. Let's go to 38-48. What do we have there? Fortunately, getting through this reasonably quickly. This is absolute rubbish. It's hardly worth bothering with, really, but I think someone needs to. See, I can't comment on Miles Johnson's channel because I'm barred, so I have to. 38. Oh, what was it? 38 something or another. So if I want to sort of voice my opinion about how ludicrous this is, I have to do it by making a video, which might not be a bad thing, I suppose.
Hands on it first. And I think that's what it was all about, because the Americans did try and stop the task force, you know. They didn't encourage it to go down.
Oh, that's right, yeah. The Americans supposedly tried to hinder the task force from getting to the Falklands because they wanted the black goo. Absolute rubbish. If this was sentient alien black goo, the Americans would have gone down there and collected it. And there's nothing the Brits or anyone else could have done to stop them. This is just ludicrous nonsense.
We didn't get refuelled by the Americans. We got refuelled by the Brazilians, not the Americans, earlier.
Yeah, I personally, I haven't checked that, but I'd be surprised, because we're talking about Maggie Thatcher. Maggie Thatcher sent the task force down there to kick the Argentinians off the occupied British territory. And I think Reagan was the president in the US at the time, and was he? I have to check that anyway. But anyway, they were good pals. So I very much doubt this is true.
When I was sat over there listening to the previous speaker, I thought, well, I don't remember it that way. The Americans did everything they could to bloody stop us from going down there. And even on the way back, there was...
Nah. If the Americans wanted to stop you getting down there, they would have stopped you getting down there. And something like anything alien, the Americans are going to want it. You know, if there's the slightest chance that this stuff is truly alien, the Americans would have gone down there and collected it. Simple as that, you know. It's black and white. 43, what do we have there? 43. 43.
Become very paranoid about where I...
Oh, he's become paranoid. So he's got some mental health issues. Perhaps not surprisingly. I think that's a prerequisite for appearing on the Miles Johnson channel.
Go and who's going to be there. I've been having a lot of treatment at hospital, been there twice this week, and even when I go to the hospital, I'm paranoid about a new face.
So, nutty as a fruitcake, in other words.
Yeah. I don't trust many people, and I've had better treatment when I've gone abroad, I'm sorry, but it's kept me going. Just.
Okay, so he's got mental health issues. That's why he's decided to come forward with this stuff. He's not very well. Yeah, so it's probably all fantasy. Miles Johnson's convinced him of this fantasy and stuck him up in front of the camera. Simply so he can say he's got somebody up there that was there at the time and has personal knowledge of this. Again, I'll remind you that it was his colleague that supposedly saw the Black Goo, not this guy. So again, he's not the direct experiencer of this stuff. I don't think anybody else is either, to be perfectly honest. I think it's an absolute load of rubbish. Okay, so let's go to 45. What have we got at 45? I do like these response videos. I should thank Ben Emlyn-Jones for that. I got the idea from Ben. I thought 45, I said, didn't I? But these are really quite good fun.
And others that I know that don't make sense. You cannot just write things off just like that.
Yeah, you can. I'm going to write this video off just like that. It's garbage.
And
what do you think the oil was? What was it? Some kind of fantasy?
what inside? What, the oil?
You said it moved. What someone looked in? You said it moved.
So he said it was oil, but it was it had a watery film over it, like a yellowy watery film, and it seemed to move towards him when he was peering in. This is what he...
And remember, this is what his friend told him years after the event in a pub. Not at the time. Now, think about that for a minute. I mean, if you're with a small team of people and you're down on some island and you're liberating a scientific base, you're getting some people out of there, and you come across a cave and it's got these crates in it, and your colleague opens the crates and he sees something as unusual as that. Don't you think that would be a little bit of chat on the day and some photographs taken on the day, there and then? This is just rubbish.
So, whether it was too many cigarettes, I'm not sure, but...
Yeah, I think there you go. You see, he's saying he doesn't feel comfortable relating this story because he knows it's rubbish. Okay, so what else have we got? We got 46.54. We're almost there, actually, aren't we? So 46. 46.50. There we go. What have we got there?
Well, there was other buildings as well, huts and stuff. But the tanks that you see there, that would supposedly hold crude oil. So.
Yeah, okay. So there's these massive tanks you can see in the picture that are going to be holding crude oil or diesel oil, maybe diesel fuel for the generators. You know, if you blow those up, obviously it's going to create a huge explosion. So, you know, nothing unusual about that. You know, you'll hear Ben say the explosion was far too big. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Is he going to say anything else interesting about the tanks? No. Okay. What else? 47.20. Now,
were you surprised to hear the likes of David Griffin talking about it and Miles Johnson? And when did you come up?
David Griffin is the guy that got everything he knows about the Black Goo from Nexus magazine. Put a line through that guy. You know, it's just he's a waste of time.
What's that information, if you didn't come across it?
I haven't really. I'm sorry, but I haven't really looked at any of that. I knew Miles because of the stuff that happened to James Casbolt.
Red flag, red flag, red flag. He knows Miles because of the stuff that happened to James Casbolt. You know, we all know James Casbolt is, you know, delusional or a pathological liar. It's very, you know, along the same lines as Max Spears. You know, put a line through Casbolt, put a line through Spears. If he's talking about, you know, Casbolt, zero credibility. Give this man zero credibility.
I haven't met David Griffin. I was hoping to meet him this weekend, I believe, but he's unable to attend.
Yeah, he's unable to attend because he knows nothing about it. He doesn't want to talk to somebody that he thinks may have actually been there. That's why Griffin's not there. That's bloody obvious.
I would like to meet with him or anybody else that has information concerning.
Yeah, read Nexus magazine, mate. That's where they get it from.
Because you've got to remember, this is just from a soldier's perspective what happened. And
yeah, James Casbolt. Yeah, I don't think so. What else we got here? Not 57. 51.26. What have we got there? 51.26.
It's been a long time, hasn't it, Miles? Miles has been saying to me, we've got to talk about it. It's been going on for quite a while.
Yeah, so Miles Johnson's talked him into this is talking in the pub. He's obviously gone along and he's got involved with the Miles Johnson channel. He's been watching all this bloody drivel on the Bases channel, and I think he was talking about Casbolt, talking about clones, and that hooked him in apparently. Where was that? Hang on, where was that? Maybe that was that 48? Let's just go back at 48. 22 was that? Let's just see what he's saying here.
Casbolt, how was that connect? I mean, was that story you were interested in with Miles, or do you know James?
What happened was, with James Casbolt, me and my ex-partner, we were looking on the internet, on YouTube, and it came up about a clone, okay? So that was the hook. And so we looked at the Bases 9, I think, the interview, and it was really very interesting stuff.
So this guy is a gullible. You know, if you think there's anything to any of this bloody nonsense, you've got to be seriously gullible. So he was hooked in by Casbolt talking about clones. Yeah, okay. I'm tempted to say next caller, please, and just end it there, but let's just continue to the end. 5126. I think it was just there, weren't we? 5126. It's 5126.
It's quite a brave thing to do, given what you said has happened to you in the last couple of years.
Thank you. That's a really good question, and thank you for the remarks. The reason I've eventually, because it's been a long time, hasn't it, Miles? Miles has been saying to me, we've got to talk about it, we've got to talk about it, you've been out for quite a while. And I've been very wary of other people getting involved in this directly or indirectly, because not everybody wants to be questioned, and they don't want to be talk about them in an unconventional way, if you like. But,
yeah, okay, right, we'll move on from that. There's nothing really, nothing there. What's the next one? 5614. What's at 5614? Thank goodness we're nearly at the end of this. I mean, this is pretty excruciating stuff, isn't it? 5614.
Working in Spain, I was a teacher in Spain, worked at a very good international school there. And if there was any Brits over there, not any Brits, but if there was a certain Brit over there, for instance, who was in trouble in any way, sometimes I would get a phone call. I would get asked to go along and have a look at this person, you know, have a conversation, find out what the problem was, and act like a go-between, if you like, between this person and other people in the box in London. If you know what the box is. Or have I said too much? Do some research.
Yeah, do some research. Oh, the intrigue. The box is pretty common knowledge, is MI5, so called because their mailing address was PO Box 500 Whitehall. I don't know whether they still use that address, but it certainly used to be the case. So I'd be surprised if MI5 were remotely interested in what was going on outside of the shores of the UK. MI5's remit is, security of the mainland. Anything that goes on overseas is normally handled by MI6, so I'd find that hard to believe. I think this is probably more fanciful twaddle, personally. Okay, so what else have we got here? Mercifully, we're very close to the end. 5710, we're pretty close to that anyway. I'll just let that run. See what he says at 5710.
Okay, you'll better find out.
You mentioned you had some other net campaign levels or something that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I was so nervous and worried about coming here today that I thought, well, what's going to happen is they're going to sit there and think, oh, what a load of bullshit that is.
Yeah, he's right there. I certainly think that. Absolute bullshit.
What a load of crap. So I thought, right, okay then, I'll take along some stuff with me. So after, if you want to, you can have a look. I've got my campaign, Falkland Islands campaign medal and my Northern Ireland campaign medal. And I was very fortunate enough to get an MM as well. Thank goodness knows what for. I've got that as well, and that was all Falklands related. And I've got that. I've got photographs of me looking incredibly young with a uniform, much clearer than that in my bag.
Yeah, so again, how to get someone to believe a lot of crap is to intertwine it with some truth. So this guy probably was a soldier. He was probably, in the army for the amount of time he said. He probably was involved in the campaigns that he said. If he can produce medals to prove that, and he's got pictures of himself and his unit and his guys, fair enough. Yeah, quite happy to believe he's an ex-soldier. and he was involved in the campaigns. You know, and he was where he said when he said. There is no pictures of the crates. There's no proof whatsoever that he had anything to do with these crates, that the crates existed, that the Black Goo existed. The whole reason for the video cannot be proved by the pictures and the medals he's going to show. They've got absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with Black Goo.
I've got a group photo. This is the weird one. I've got a group photo that I couldn't possibly show on here, because it probably would be hanging in a wardrobe somewhere. Because a lot of
yeah, that's okay. Some of his ex-colleagues are still in the special forces. You can't show that. That's fair enough. Yeah, so there's no pictures of the crates. There's no pictures of the symbols on the crates. There's no pictures of the crates being loaded on the ships. You know, that part of it is absolute fantasy, absolute rubbish. Poor fellow's probably been down there and been involved in some shooting, shooting war type environment. That's probably why he's got some health issues now. Maybe depleted uranium. He's been around depleted uranium munitions. Maybe the scenario was mentally stressful. I mean, a lot of ex-military guys that are involved in combat or have mental health issues later on in life, don't they? So what else have we got here? Let's go to 105. Oh, actually, there's something here at 1. What have we got at 1? 1 minute. Let's see what we got here.
you used to use a van to go and pick up isotopes and deliver them to hospitals.
No, that's not very interesting. I don't know. I flagged that. What's 105? Let's go to 105.
I'm sorry. Yes. When you do CE5 skywatches, lots of.
Oh, he's talking about this CE5, you know, meditating and talking to aliens, bloody nonsense.
Weird and wonderful things can happen to you. One really weird one. I was invited to do a CE5, which means when you initiate contact, skywatch, and it was on top of Silbury Hill.
See what I mean? Nutty as a fruitcake. This is all nonsense. So if he believes in all this, then you know it's he put a line through this Black Goo. It's just absolute rubbish.
And it's illegal to go up there, by the way. So don't go up there. We went up there and dragged loads of kit up. There was about a dozen of us, and we were up there all night. And excuse me. What happens is you do a lot of meditation and you use tones and stuff like that. Or if you initiate contact.
Use tones. Anyone seen that movie Close Encounters?
But this got really strange because everybody fell asleep at the same time. And we were being filmed. We had cameras, we were filming it, and we were all like. And then there was this wispy, grey fog going around all of us. And then there was a cat that was jumping on people's laps.
So they're sitting on top of a hill doing a sky watch. And this is on a hill in England. It becomes misty, and they see a cat. This is... This is hardly screaming alien invasion, is it? I mean, this is just absolute rubbish.
And then when we were out of it, there was these two lights, like a car was driving up the side of the hill.
Oh, God, here we go. No, so, yeah, what else have we got here? I think that's about it. Okay, well, this has actually gone on for 39 minutes. I didn't expect it to go on for that long, and I do apologise. This is quite a long video, and I congratulate you on making it this far if you've actually done that. I sat down with a coffee and some almonds, appropriately, some nuts, and I thought I'd watch this for fun, and I just made some notes, or just flagged some timestamps in it that I thought might be worth commenting on. But when it comes to Black Goo, yeah, forget it. It's not real. It's just more. I don't know what you'd call it. Alternative. I don't know what you'd call it. I know what I call it. It's absolute rubbish. Put a line through Sentient Black Goo. There is no such thing. All right. Well, thanks for watching, and maybe I'll catch you again.